Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of this video, I'm going to be doing yet another tag. And the fun thing about this tag is that it talks about like the history of a WIP, and I thought that'd be really fun to do because as much as I talk about my projects, I never tell you like where everything came from. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I just talk about the present, which makes sense because I usually just talk about what I'm doing. But I thought it'd be fun to do this tag in order for you guys to just know the history about it a little bit. This tag was created by Katie Ann Wright. I'll have her original video linked down below and you should definitely watch it. I watched it and I found it really interesting to see another project's history and the way another author writes. So yeah, definitely check that out. If you want to do this tag, then go ahead and do it. I'd be interested to see your responses. Without further ado, here we go. So the project that I want to talk about is the first book of the dystopian trilogy because it is the first, so I feel like it'd be easier to talk about. And also I'm talking about the dystopian trilogy because there's more history there, there's more I can talk about. I might mention the other two, but that's the project that I'm going to be mostly talking about. The first question is, give a brief summary or tagline for your WIP. So I'm terrible with taglines and summaries and things like that of the sort. Like, I need a lot of time to really think about my projects. I did write a summary once upon a time, so let's see if I can find it. So I managed to find it after a very long time of just scrolling through and looking through different Google Drives. It's quite short, it's just a paragraph, but it's the best summary that I'm going to write for a long time. So, a historic event that caused the death of 99% of the world's population, a corrupt government with a lust for power and riches, a strict set of rules for the punishment for rebelling is a fate worse than death, and yet with the help of the elusive River Bennett, as well as numerous other allies that come along the way, Aveline Thomas pushes the boundaries of what's acceptable. Along the way, she discovers the truth behind mass deaths, the truth behind the chaos, and biggest of all, the truth of who the government really are. That's a summary. It's still like super vague on what actually happens, but it is like a summary of all three books in a way, but hopefully it's fine. I guess this is a sign to write a summary, learn how to write synopsises and stuff. The second question is, when did you first get the idea for your current WIP? I got the idea for this project quite a while ago. Like, the earliest I can think of thinking of this project was 2018. When I was reading like a bunch of Wattpad books and I was thinking about a scenario to put all these characters in because I thought, oh, they're pretty strong characters. I think they should do something like this. It'd be fun for them to have a cameo like this. And over time, that idea just evolved to having different types of characters and being in this situation, and then the whole situation changed because I realized new characters can be in a different situation as well, and it just evolved. Moving on to question 3. What were the first elements you came up with? An idea, a dream, character, image. The first thing was an idea to put the characters in because my idea was just taking other people's characters and putting them in a situation. But then when I realized that I really liked this idea, this event that took place, I don't know what else to refer to it as. If I call it by its actual name, it basically just spoils the book. But if I call it an event, it makes it seem like a positive thing, and it's not a positive thing. I knew it was dystopian from the minute this event came, so I think the world came first of everything. Question 4 is, what has remained the same in your story? Not a lot. Since the very first thing, barely anything stayed the same. The event has changed, the types of characters I want has changed, the world has changed, where it's set has changed. The only things that have stayed the same is that this book is set in America, this book is set in the future. The event that takes place has the same outcome. So like the event that comes after the event, if that makes sense, is still relatively the same. And what else has stayed the same? The fact that it's dystopian. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of what stayed the same, but not a lot has. And 5, what has changed in your story? Why? Coming from the previous question, basically everything has changed. Main characters' names changed because I didn't feel they fitted well and they looked odd on the page, if that makes sense. It's like, you know when you can tell the character doesn't suit their name? I could tell that. So the character's name changed, the character's age changed, the state that everything took place in changed. So it was originally going to be Florida, but I chose Florida as a completely random state, had no like reason being there. So as I was actually developing the story, realizing my characters, understanding things more, I realized Florida is so random. It just doesn't need to be the state this is like set in at the beginning, and it takes place kind of all over the place, but nowhere near Florida. The time that the book was set in changed. It was originally going to be 2043, I'm pretty sure, but then I pushed it up to 2063 because I realized more time needed to happen from 2020, which was like the history, when the history first began happening for this world, to 2063. So like I needed the 43 years to establish the way this world has really changed. The government's name has changed. They used to just be called the government with a capital G, but they have an actual name now. The character's living situation has changed. So she's always been an orphan, but she was actually going to be a farmer as well, but then I realized it makes no sense. So since the very first premise, everything's changed. Very little things stayed the same, and the reason for this is because I understood the story better, I understood the plot better, and I developed the events and the characters, so I started knowing more about it and I could make the correct changes for the story to flow better. Now on to 6. Have you started drafting yet? If so, how much have you written? How many drafts? If not, what stage of the process are you in? Yes, I've started drafting this book. I started drafting it back in 2020, like September time. I'm currently on draft 2 and I've written like 5,000 words of draft 2. Not a lot. Draft 1 is 52k. I expect draft 2 to be like 62k, so like an extra 10k. Could be more, could be less. I know there's extra content added in, but whether it'll push me off to like the 70s or the 80s, I don't know. I want there to be like at least 3 drafts written before I leave this book for a while, which I want to do eventually. Like leave all 3 books for a while and then come back to them and read them as a whole and then make edits if I need to. Currently sitting here right now, this very second, the stage I'm in is kind of like the finalizing the new outline, kinda. 7 is, how did you know who would tell the story? Book 1 is written from Evelyn's point of view only. Book 2 has more point of views, but speaking of book 1 only, I knew it was going to be told from Evelyn's point of view because not only does she like represent everything wrong with what the government's doing, but she's also more capable and she's the kind of character that can really make a change. So I knew I wanted to tell it from a point of view of someone that can represent the bad of this world but can also represent the potential this world has. I knew I was going to write it from her point of view from the very beginning because I knew she would be able to tell this story from 2 different sides while also being just one character. Question 8 is, what POV and tense is/will it be written in? Has it changed over time? It is written in 3rd person past tense, and indeed it has changed. When I was first outlining this story, so before I started drafting, like the very initial stages, back when I still wanted it to be set in Florida, I thought I wanted to write it in a point of view and a tense that I hadn't really explored, but I thought it would be fun to explore with this. So I wanted to write in first person present tense. And I did try this when I started drafting for the first time, but it just wasn't clicking. I didn't know how to write the story. I was having a hard time getting past the first page. So then I tried first person past tense because I'm very comfortable with past tense. So I thought maybe that'll improve the story, and it just didn't work either. So then I gave it a break for a little bit. I evaluated my outline, I changed bits of the story, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna change where it's set, we're gonna change when it's set, we're going to change how it's written, and maybe I'll be finally able to write this story. And indeed, I changed it to third person past tense and it flowed out. 52,000 words were written, and I don't know why I thought I'd be able to write first person present tense, and I don't know why I thought the story would fit first person present tense, but I'm so glad it's changed to third person past tense. 9 is, do you have a title for your story? You can share it if you feel comfortable. When did you come up with it? If you don't have a title, do you need one before you start writing? Yes! All the books in the trilogy have a title, and the trilogy itself has a title. And the first book is the name of the event that takes place, but I'll leave it a secret for now. I came up with book 1's name when I finished the book. And then the final part of that question is, do you need a title before writing? I don't. I typically come up with like a code name for it, so it's either the initial of the premise or just something to refer to it by very quickly, and that's just what I name the document. Sometimes I just name the document like book 1 of this. So I don't need a title. I like having a title because I like calling it something, but I don't need one to start writing. And finally, question 10, how did you know you were ready to tell this story? I don't think anyone's ready to write a story. I don't think anyone's ready to quite tell a story. I think it just takes like just sitting down and telling yourself you're just gonna do it. You know, there's no time like the present. At that point, I finished my 2019 novel like a while ago, and I was outlining and I was trying to figure out something to write. And that was the only solid idea that I had. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna tell this story. Why not? Why not write this idea? It's been forming here for a while. I just started to start writing just to have something to write. And I don't think it was too quick. I'm quite happy I decided to start writing. But had I given it more time, I think I would have probably outlined the other 2 books first. I didn't know I was ready, but I was. And I managed to start writing it. That was the WIP history tag. I love this name, by the way. But yeah, I had a lot of fun just talking about this, thinking back on the history, because like typically whenever I talk about this book, as I already mentioned, I talk about more what's currently happening with it, what plans I have for the future, and not really what previously had to be for me to get to this point. If you'd like to do this video, then you are now tagged, and let me know if you did do it so I can watch it and see your responses. I love hearing about people's like thought processes and how their writing came to be. Thank you very much to Katie Ann for creating this tag and for sort of not really tagging me. I tagged myself. It's cool. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!